let's talk about something which is very, very critical to our emotional and mental well-being, and that is embracing authenticity. What do I mean by that? We are so used to suppressing our dreams and desires, our frustrations, our fears and regrets, because we always want to appear to be perfect. Where does this come from? As a society, not just in India, across the globe, medicine is considered to be one of the top most professions, if not the most important profession. You know, the noble profession, the one which everyone aspires to get into. So now that we've become doctors, it becomes very difficult for us then to say, this isn't really working out for me. I'm not really able to be an authentic healer the way I wanted to be. I'm struggling with something, or I'm unhappy, and this isn't really the fulfilling profession that I thought I was going to have. Or, there are so many other obstacles and challenges coming in the way, but we are never able to talk about them to anyone because we can't be seen as weak. Which is why I want you to recognize that create a safe space within yourself so that you can be vulnerable without having to be falsely perfectionist, without having to pretend to be perfect, because none of us are, none of us can be as human beings. We are all imperfect, we are all work in progress, we are all evolving. But as a doctor, particularly as a woman doctor, I know how much pressure and how much stress we have to not just perform to a certain high degree of excellence, including perfection, but to even overperform, to be seen as somebody who's worthy of being at par with the other colleagues at the workplace. And we get into the habit of the perfectionism, we get into the habit of pushing ourselves no matter what, of overgiving, of overachieving, of constantly being everything for everyone, eventually being no one to our own selves. And this is what I mean by embracing authenticity. It means connect with yourself, recognize and accept yourself for who you are. What are your dreams and desires? What are your regrets? What are your frustrations? What is it that makes your eyes sparkle? What is it that drains your energy? When you wake up in the morning, what is it that you're so excited to do? And what is it that you absolutely dread to do? Without that level of self-awareness and those kind of insights, you will stay in a state of constant frustration, of repressed emotions, possibly coming out as resentments, affecting your relationships, not just at the workplace but also in your personal life. So let's talk about how are we going to achieve this authenticity, and then how are we going to embrace it. Every day when we wake up, what is the first thing we do? We wear a mask. Not the mask of COVID, but the mask that we put on to be acceptable, to be presentable, to behave in the way that we've been conditioned to behave, to show up in the way that people expect us to show up. And in many ways, of course, it is good. We do want to show up, in a way that we have committed to. But sometimes that mask can become our own prison. We are unable to authentically express any of the so-called negative feelings. We are allowed to only express things when they are going well. And that can become a huge drain on our energies. It can become quite a gap for our emotional well-being, because our subconscious is struggling. Subconscious is struggling to tell you this is not in alignment with your values. And do you know what is the most difficult part? We are afraid of judgment, and we are afraid of disappointing not just the others, but ourselves. We are very often afraid of judging ourselves. We are very often afraid of failing ourselves, disappointing ourselves. And hence we need to be in absolute congruence with understanding who really we are before we start showing up in the external world and wanting to achieve our dreams and ambitions. We are suffocating our true selves. We are repressing our true selves. We are putting it inside a cage and telling it, no, you're not good enough to come out. You're not worthy. You don't deserve to be seen by other people. Maybe you're not safe to be seen by other people, because we have had some trauma or some kind of a conflict which has made us feel, I can't show up in my true authentic self. I have to only behave the way other people expect me to behave. Otherwise, something bad will happen to me. And this may be something from your childhood. It may be an experience you had in your early professional life. But trust me, it is extremely important for us to heal that trauma, to accept ourselves for who we are, and to release all the emotions that you have kept suppressed all this time. Because eventually those emotions, you know that as a doctor, as good as anyone else, those repressed emotions are going to emerge either as mental and physical issues, or emotional breakdowns, or it's going to cause some difficulties in your relationships. And here's the good news. You can do it. It's not going to be easy, but it's not impossible. I was in a situation like yours, and if you had told me 5-6 years ago that I would be working on my emotions, that I would be learning how to acknowledge and manage my feelings and emotions, I would have said, okay, yeah, sure, I don't have time for any of this. I'm a very busy professional and I've got lots of, better scientific, productive things to do. But honestly, I'm telling you now, trust me, without being able to understand and manage and process your emotions and your feelings, everything else will remain out of control. Everything else will feel chaotic. Everything else will be, you'll be pulled and pushed in different directions, whether it's in your profession, whether it's in your private relationships. Once you have the clarity and once you have accepted and understood all your emotions, because see, remember, your emotions are there mainly as a signal. The emotions are trying to give you a message. But we have been conditioned from childhood that only certain happy, good, positive, so-called positive emotions are to be expressed.